So when we speak about the means of welfare, we are really thinking about the mechanisms or methods we use to achieve the goals of social policy. So those goals often include meeting people's needs and rights. They also, they might include many other things really, but mostly we are thinking of the needs and the rights and how we conceptualize social welfare as a need, a right, versus it being a commodity, as we had started saying. So it is very crucial really to have the right means when designing and implementing policy to ensure that the goals can be met and that we can achieve better social outcomes for the people. So in particular, we really want to explore some key design principles for designing social policy, and we really want to insist very much on universalism or versus targeting as key core principles of achieving outcomes in social policy. So the intention is for you to understand how the mechanisms chosen in policy design are influenced by the relationship between the goals, that is the ends, and the means, that is the goal. I mean, the method used to achieve these social outcomes in social welfare. So you'll have seen in your readings a table that contrasts the ends of welfare with the means of welfare. And in this session in particular, we'll now focus especially on two concepts, the concept of efficiency and the concept of effectiveness. So these two interrelated concepts are really important, but also different ways of designing policies to meet people's needs and rights, and to determine, whether people deserve services and to what extent can government intervene in providing those services. So all these two concepts really are tied to how we achieve, desired policy outcomes and how resources are even used. So the concept of effectiveness is all about whether the policy achieves the desired outcomes or the desired goals. That's all what efficiency is about. Whereas the concept of efficiency is about minimal use of resources in undertaking the policies. Do we achieve the outcomes with the resources we have and the different resources in place we do have? So both concepts are interrelated, but quite different, and you might want to consider those in your assessments and the tutorials we shall be doing later this week. So to help visualize this, I suggested the cookies and how we make cookies, and we might think of cookie dough and cookie cutters. So if our goal is to make the prettiest cookies, that's effectiveness. We are trying to be effective, and we might use several different shapes to do that. Even though this in itself could lead to some dough waste, of course. But of course, if our main goal is efficiency, then using the least dough possible might be, what we aim for. And then this simply cutting the dough into, squares and using every bit would be more efficient. So think about that and see whether the image on this slide really tells you something. So moving on to universalism and targeting. These are really important design concepts focused on who benefits from social policy. So targeting is likely aiming, it's mostly like aiming really at the bullseyes on a target. It means directing or restricting services to those deemed most in need. Whereas universalism, in contrast, this really means making assistance available to all who require it, regardless of their status, whether they deserve it or not. So, while all welfare systems use form of targeting, states vary in how often they use it. We've started speaking about, the Australian social policy systems in week one, and we used these words like targeting, means tested, and how that differs with, universalism, where services are quite available to everyone. And again, this is something you really want to go back to. And now, can you really think of some different examples of targeted policies here in Australia? Who's targeted and why are they targeted? Really encourage you very much to reflect on this question, because again, it starts preparing you to your next assessment, which is the second assessment for this course, which, I'll be explaining in more details in week 4. So to all these, whether services are targeted or whether they are following a universalist logic, these, of course, still have pros and cons. There will be advantages when it comes to targeting, for example, advantages around lower costs and capacity to assist those in greatest need more efficiently, compared to disadvantages, of course, which might be the stigma which services come with, low take-up rates, poorer quality of services, and so on and so forth. Whereas when it is universalism, you might want to consider the pros, like services available and accessible to whole populations, and the availability, therefore, doesn't pose significant problems. Whereas specific cons might be the challenges in ensuring, services are planned and delivered in the most accessible and relevant and useful way. And of course, services can end up being expensive to some extent.